I want to discuss some of the reactions we're seeing to the big news from over the weekend, which was the second assassination attempt against Donald Trump, as I've been covering extensively. We will get to Trump's first big post since this happened, and it's something. But first, here's a quick update from the Secret Service director.
The agent, who was visually sweeping the area of the sixth screen, saw the subject armed with what he perceived to be a rifle and immediately discharged his firearm. The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent. With reports of gunfire, the former president's close protection.
So in this case, very different than Butler, Pennsylvania, the damage was prevented, right? There wasn't an injury to Trump, and there wasn't the tragic death of a Trump supporter. And clearly Butler was a bigger security failure. Whereas here, the investigation is ongoing. It sounds like the guy still got way too close, but at least he was prevented from even putting Trump into his line of sight, as was mentioned, and getting off a shot. And credit to Secret Service and the agent there for that. We'll see what else needs to be done to even prevent something this close, because it seems that is incorrect as well. But we now need to talk about what Trump posted. You would think, as was my naive belief, I'm not going to have that naive belief this time, after the first assassination attempt, that there would be some moment of pause across the political spectrum, and maybe we try to all, of course, denounce political violence and then attempts at political violence like this, or plots of political violence, and then figure out how we could maybe lower the temperature. That's not happening. We've already seen instantly the finger pointing, all the stuff we saw after the last one on True Social, Trump posting this. The rhetoric lies as exemplified by the false statements made by Comrade Kamala Harris during the rigged and highly partisan ABC debate, and all the ridiculous lawsuits specifically designed to inflict damage on Joe's, then Kamala's political opponent, me, has taken politics in our country to a whole new level of hatred, abuse, and distrust. So I really do have sympathy, even with someone who is probably the person I oppose the most, especially in politics, being Trump. I still have sympathy for the scary feeling it must, that he must have experienced. Definitely the first assassination. But even here, learning how close the guy was, it's probably frightening. I have sympathy. The fact that he wants to then exploit what happened to continue telling lies, that's what those are, they're lies, is, as I've repeatedly said in relation to even some left-wing responses I've seen, unhelpful at the least, inappropriate, unjustified. If everyone who watches the show who's not subscribed, just today, just the viewers today who aren't subscribed, who we're going to watch, click the subscribe button today, we'd hit 1 million subscribers. Pretty crazy based on the analytics. Do it. Thank you so much. Back to the video. We continue. Because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying, and it will only get worse. Allowing millions of people from places unknown to invade and take over our country is an unpardonable sin. Our borders must be closed, and terrorists, criminals, and mentally insane immediately removed from American cities and towns, deported back to their countries of origin. We want people to come into our country, but they must love our nation and come in legally and through a system of merit. The world is laughing at us fools. They're stealing our jobs and our wealth. We cannot let them laugh any longer. Make America great again. Second part's the normal stuff we hear. But again, it's the communists' fault, when Harris is obviously not a communist. That sort of rhetoric is not the rhetoric of someone who wants to engage in a unifying moment of pause by any means, and that's definitely unfortunate. We already talked about in a previous segment, you've seen this if you're a full show viewer or podcast listener. By the way, Spotify listeners, now the video version just automatically is there if you click on it, so you can watch the video and then go back to listen to the audio. Pretty cool. But for our segment viewers, we already talked about in a different segment, you can catch it later, the comparison, as often becomes a discussion here. Is there a difference? There is. Between how either sides, not just random people on either side, but people in positions of power on either side, the leaders of the movements on either side, Harris, Trump, is there a difference between how they react to incidents of political violence? There's a big difference. We saw when Paul Pelosi was attacked, Trump 2 weekends ago still was mocking it, has been mocking it for months, think it's hilarious. When Trump's attack, Harris would never mock, takes it very seriously. Biden saying he wants to give Secret Service more resources to figure out how to protect Trump as much as possible. So that discrepancy we've already talked about. Now I want to explore the other MAGA reactions outside of illustrating that contrast, starting with Alex Jones.
The deep state already tried to kill him and failed on July 13th of this year, just 40-something days ago. And 2 days after it happened, I came out and said, the deep state is going to try again, and they're going to try to frame Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that we're not in normal times. World War III, nuclear war is this close. They just fired 5 shots at Trump and hit him in the side of the head. And the media's like, oh, big deal, he survived an assassination attempt. And now they've tried to kill him with a gun. They're going to try to poison him. So Trump, inside circle, listen to me. And I know you've listened before. You've had the Secret Service call me. I've briefed them on stuff. Listen to me. They're going to try to poison him now. This blew up in their face. They failed. They fired 5 shots. They killed 2 people. This means the New World Order is going for broke.
So this was as a part of a compilation he was posting, I should say, to illustrate the point that, see, I was right, which in part you weren't, as you said, poisoning. But also what I want you to see there is how people, conspiracy theorists, they give one big simple answer to the thousands and thousands and millions of complicated questions we as humans engage with on a daily basis, which is, let me just give you one antagonist, they, the deep state, the globalists, same entity. And that anytime anything happens, we can just point to that. And what is allowed there, again, is simplicity, which is why conspiracy theories are often so appealing to people, is it makes the world simpler than it actually is. And it allows for people to, instead of how we all have to walk through life, which is, wait, this really good person did a bad thing, or a bad person did a good thing, and all these contradicting sometimes life lessons we experience, all those get taken away when you have just all bad deep state, controlled by the deep state. Oh, there was a good person, well, now they're a rhino and they became a part of the deep state. And that's what Alex Jones does for his viewers. That's why I guess people watch him. It's pretty dishonest. But it's also really dangerous because, as you're seeing with Alex Jones, it then portrays just all of the people we don't like, whether it's because we don't like their policies or they're a lunatic with a gun who tried to go kill Trump. It's all the same. All the same. Group them all together. They. And in the first case, as I told you, it made even less sense to say that. It never does, as I told you before, but even less sense because in Butler, this was someone who we learned later wasn't motivated by political ideology and was looking for Democrats and Republicans and was registered Republican, all that, right? So that made even less sense, but they were still saying it there. Now you do have a case of someone who, I know people are mentioning that he said he voted for Trump in 2016. I guess that's interesting. He went on to pitch a Vivek, Nikki Haley ticket, so maybe not super far left, but definitely anti-Trump politically. And this was, from what we can tell, politically motivated. But we have to be able to distinguish between rational political dialogue, which is what we have on a daily basis, and a lunatic trying to do something deranged. But when you merge it all together, as we're seeing, it's all the same they, you get really into a dangerous territory. I do want to say as well, I'm seeing some in our space inaccurately report on this guy, saying that, see, he's just another Trumpster who all the way up until the point where he went after Trump was for Trump. That's not accurate. If you look at his social media feed, for some time he's been very anti-Trump, and we should just be accurate about that. This was more politically motivated from all we can tell. Those are the facts. Doesn't change our broader framework and how our principles contradict wildly with his on how we approach our democratic process. And his are deranged. But let's be accurate about this. And I've seen some, again, misreporting on that. But then you have, in terms of wrong responses, Elon Musk saying, and no one's even trying to assassinate Biden and Kamala. He deleted that and said, oh, I didn't realize that online the joke comes off differently. Crazy. Lauren Boebert saying Trump takes a lead in the polls and someone tries to assassinate him again. The desperation to keep this man from being president again is exactly why I'm voting for him. he didn't take a lead in the polls, first of all, and to try to connect those two things is, again, portraying it all as one big unit that they're working with. Then you have this on Fox News.
That is just the rhetoric, and people are at each other's throats. Do you see that as a contributing factor in Butler, which you've already looked at?
Absolutely. The rhetoric is every day, all day. And as it's directed against President Trump, it's saying that he's a threat to democracy, that he's going to destroy America. It's absolutely absurd, and it is irresponsible. And Democrats and people who are speaking in these terms about President Trump need to take responsibility and really think about the consequence of using that kind of language. Right. Because here we are again. And so in the days immediately after Butler, we heard people accept that needed to stop, but it didn't last. And that today is a day that needs to be taken seriously.
It lasted about a day and a half. Congresswoman, thank you very much for joining us live. That is just the...
And I thought Aaron Rupar accurately described that clip, saying this clip gives away the game. Republicans want Democrats to stop campaigning against Trump because accurately calling out what he wants to do to the country supposedly endangers him. And we don't want him to be put in danger. I want to defeat him in November at the ballot box. Up until that point and after it, I want him to have the best protection he can possibly have so that he physically is all right. But Republicans, you can't say that because of a deranged guy, or now two deranged guys with guns, by the way, that we don't think they should have, that we have to stop accurately explaining why we oppose someone and making abundantly clear the way we oppose him is through democracy, not through violence. Peter Schiff said the fact that they keep trying to kill Trump is reason enough to vote for him. Who is they? We never know. This is not a group you're referring to. This is in the case of that one guy, and then in Butler, Pennsylvania, a second lunatic. I also don't understand that logic, voting for someone for that reason. But Adam Kinzinger said, evidently, as I'm looking at Twitter, the new answer to any criticism of Trump is that he just had his second assassination attempt. So you can't. Yes, you can. Within the bounds of any political criticism, don't let them try to intimidate you. Trump must be defeated. Of course, politically, Jack Sobiek said, looks like Mark Zuckerberg just scrubbed the shooter's Facebook account. More conspiracy spinning off because of that. In reality, that's standard operating procedure when it comes to someone who engaged in a serious event like this, so that if their social media were to have radicalizing material on it, that's not spreading further as the investigation goes on. A Maga guy named Gunther said, if you don't realize it's our own government trying to kill President Trump, you're blind, inside job. No evidence of that, just making things more dangerous. And there's a bunch more examples, but I think you get the point. Before I saw any of these reactions, right whenever this happened, the initial response was happy everyone was okay, happy it was prevented, mad it was even a plot. And then I requested across the political spectrum, please be rational in your responses. Specifically to MAGA, it was don't run with the conspiracy theories about this. And then to the left, don't run with the conspiracy theories about this being staged or anything to that effect. And already, none of those requests are being abided by, shockingly. I'll leave it there. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments.